There was a time when men were kind, when their voices were soft and their words were inviting. There was a time when love was blind and the world was a song and the song was exciting. There was a time and then it all went wrong. Hi everybody, welcome back to It's a Book. This is my YouTube series where I talk about reading, writing, love of the craft, and my journey to becoming a self-published author. This is episode 26 and it is titled 172,800 seconds, or that time I went to jail. This is based on a true story. Some identifying details have been changed just to protect the parties involved. I learned a lot from this situation. It happened a really long time ago, but I hope that by sharing it, you will learn something too and definitely be entertained. Thank you so much, and prayers for all of our incarcerated Scarfaces. Love you. Don't forget to like, comment, share, subscribe, and tell a friend to tell a friend. Hope you enjoy. Let me know what you think in the comments. Jail is decidedly more glamorous on television. As I ride in the back of the police car late this February night, I keep thinking that the arresting officer will at some point realize that he is making a big mistake. It is obvious that I maced my crazy, self-absorbed, and physically violent ex-boyfriend because I had no choice. Who wouldn't mace someone who struck them repeatedly in the face, purposely open-handed so as not to cause obvious bruising? Who wouldn't mace someone who placed himself in the front seat of your car despite your desperate pleas for him to simply leave you alone and for God's sake to just stop hitting you? As tears roll down my cheeks, I pray for a miracle that will not come. I am led into the police station and steered into a stark white holding area with artificial lighting. A shatterproof glass separates me from the officers on the other side. Handcuffed to a stainless steel bench, I keep my gaze averted from the filthy, drunken man seated just a few feet away. He yells and carries on that he hasn't violated the restraining order his wife has against him. He says that she has invited him over as she always did, and he was asleep on the porch when she called the cops on him. Yeah, he was drunk, and yes, he had been previously charged with trespassing when he was found living on the park, but this time he's innocent, and damn it, he will never take another drink again. He just swears it. As he carries on, I sob as I try to absorb the shitstorm I am caught in. I try to compose myself, but my tears keep attracting the looks of others waiting for processing. Their confused expressions ask, "What did she do to get in here? She isn't tough." Obviously. When I am told I am being charged with a simple assault, a misdemeanor with a mandatory 48-hour hold, my shock and confusion quickly turns to anger. Why am I in here? Why am I to blame for protecting myself? Was I supposed to keep getting hit and not do anything about it? The arresting officer doesn't want to hear anything of it. I am stripped of my personal belongings and led to processing where I must pose for my mugshot. I am beyond embarrassed. I want to die. Death seems better than the physical pain in my swelling face and the ache in my heart. I try to control my anxiety. I pray for God to guide me through, and I know He will. But still. My hair is half done. Earlier, before my nightmare began, I had the bright idea to two-strand twist my natural hair so that when I loosened it come Monday morning, I would have a tumble of defined curls and ringlets. Arrested with the little ways to go I never finished. A tuft of it stood up in the center of my head like an advertisement for my utter hopelessness. For a brief moment, I vainly wonder if I should let a coy smile play across my lips, just like Paris Hilton did in her mugshot. After all, honey, if it's gonna be public record, I need to be fierce. But the spark of my old mischievous self vanished as quickly as it takes for the photographer to signal for me to look up into the camera mounted to the ceiling. My fingerprints are taken, and I know that this incident will forever be fused with my DNA as far as society is concerned. I can no longer cry. My soul and all of the emotions that makes me a human being seem to flee, leaving a numb, vacant shell to fend for itself. As I sit and wait to be taken to my cell, I finish twisting the remainder of my hair. It is, after all, something to do. A female officer summons me. I am led to a dungeon-like bathroom with dark walls, a shower head looming, and a large drain in the center of the floor. There is a square-cut window in the door with a sliding partition, and the female officer told me that I must strip, shower, and change into my jail-issued scrubs. I refuse to shower. I am clean already and want no part of the intangible filth and shame this place offers. She shrugs. Look, she says, I don't care what you do in here after I leave, but here is a bar of soap, some slippers, and your jail scrubs. You can keep your underwear on as long as your bra is wireless. Dump the rest of your street clothing in this bin and change. I'm thankful that I'm wearing a sports bra. It's a white lace fringe one, which I will promptly throw away once I am released. As soon as she leaves, I do as I told while sniffling. The oatmeal-colored scrubs feel starchy and stiff against my bare skin. I am too numb to wonder how many other women have been forced to don this same pair of pants and shirt. My feet are cold and the rubber slides on my feet squeak as I follow the officer to a temporary holding cell. A short Hispanic girl sits in similarly drab gear, her head buried in the crook of her arm. Suddenly aware of the uncomfortable swelling in my bladder, I am grateful when the medic calls for her. It's time for her exam. Quickly, I squat over the open toilet, knowing that cameras watch my every tinkle. When the medic calls my name, I shuffle over to a room about the size and imagination of a closet. The walls are a putrid yellow. I tell the medic my face hurts and he gives me ibuprofen. Greedily, I swallow the pill, knowing that it might dull the ache in my face, but it will do little to heal the wound in my spirit. When inmates are escorted to general population, it is with shackles around our ankles so as to prevent us from running down a dead-end hallway and being tackled by sleepy-eyed guards. The hallway ends with a steel door on the left and the right. The male inmates are taken one way, the women another. I pray that I am not assigned a cellmate, but oddly enough, I breathe a sigh of relief when I see a body cocooned in a woolen blanket on the bottom bunk bed. The room is lit, but only dimly so. A pair of large beige panties are hung to dry on the corner of a bunk. The room is box-like, with the same drab yellow paint as the medic's room, and a large steel door with a square window. Through the window, I can see a glaringly lit common area with half a dozen farm-style table-bench combinations reminiscent of my elementary school days. I have to pee again, and maybe poop too, but her head is right there near the toilet. It would be rude to be introduced to someone this way, so I climb up to my bunk and wonder how long can I hold my pee? Maybe for the whole 48 hours? Maybe I can pee in the shower. But on television, prisoners shower together, and if I can't squat down next to my cellmate's sleeping form, I certainly wouldn't be able to pee in a shower full of wide-awake strangers. My face throbs only a little now, but my bladder is beginning to cramp. I scramble down the bunk, careful not to step on my cellmate's face on the way down. I line the seat with 1-ply paper and pee. I will myself, don't go number 2, don't go number 2, as I dart glances back and forth to my mate's bunk. But number 2 reminds me of dog walks and my puppy who was hurt during my escape. I dissolve into tears again right there on the toilet, a foot away from my cellmate's face. I try to pull myself together, but I'm still peeing, and I wonder, why am I so full of pee? And I'm sad, and I feel broken, and because I'm thinking of my scared brown puppy with his hurt paw pulled protectively up against his body, I forget to clench, and a loud fart escapes. Angry at my body for betraying me, I give myself a shake, wipe, and jump up. Without thinking, I reach over and flush. Shit. Guiltily, I look at my cellmate and shrug. If the bullfrog of a fart I just dropped didn't wake her, then an absent-minded flush of the commode will not hurt. I crawl up to my bunk and wonder if I can possibly sleep for 48 hours. Blair. That positive, whining, high-pitched voice in my head cries out, someone is going to realize their mistake and you'll get out of here, girl. Just you wait. You don't belong in here. I say to myself, yeah, I'll get out of here in just a few hours. I wipe away my tears and fall exhausted into haunted dreams. I am awakened by the crackle of an intercom and then the flickering on of fluorescent lights. They are much brighter than need be. Outside the cell door window, I see that other cells are being similarly lit. We are told that we have one chance to shower, and if we miss it, then too bad. One chance to eat breakfast, and those inmates who have not gone through orientation must return to their cells immediately after, while the other inmates are granted an hour free time in the common area. I choose not to shower. After all, I'm going home soon, I tell myself. I am sweaty and my sports bra and underpants are soaked. I wait until my roommate exits the cell to shower and quickly do as she's done. I wash my undergarments in the sink and hang them on the corner of my bunk to dry. I'll spoil the ending for you. They never do dry. The inmates assemble in the common area. I don't remember what we ate for breakfast. I only remember that a girl who says she has been there all week refuses to eat. I read online that prisons put hormones in the food. Hormones? Hormones for what? Another girl asked around a mouthful of something. Hormones to keep inmates from getting horny and trying to screw each other, girl. I'm not eating that shit. I say nothing aloud, but in my head I'm thinking I'm not eating that shit either. The food looks bland and soulless. I feel as though I am not missing out on anything by not eating it. It's quite all right that we don't eat our food. There are girls like wolves whose eyes roam hungrily over each orange plastic serving tray, desperate for whatever leftovers they can get. A girl whose kinky hair stands up straight on top, the bottom once shaved but now growing in clumps along the back of her head, shoves food in her mouth. As bits flies everywhere, she begs for all of our unwanted portions. You don't want your tray? I'll eat it. You don't want your tray? I'll eat it. Such terrible manners, I think. And then I realize I am a snob, and I tell my inner voice to shut up. Before we newbies are sent back to our cells, we are told again that we must sit through an orientation before we are allowed our free hour. I'm confused. Do we get a free hour after every meal each day? So is that 3 hours that are free for inmates each day? I feel stupid for asking, but I do anyway, and the correction officer on duty clarifies. You get 1 free hour per day. 1 free hour. 1 free hour where we must remain seated on benches surrounded by off-white walls and the brown painted doors of our cells. Is prison not to rehabilitate people? How can you fix people who obviously have issues if you confine them to a cell 23 hours of the day? I know it's punishment, but dang. By some looks of these girls and like the pieces of conversation I hear, these inmates are in need of counseling and maybe some etiquette classes on top of that. The sweet voiced little imp inside my head says, now Blair, your being here is proof that we all are one bad decision away from disaster. Maybe you need some rehab too, and a few etiquette classes never hurt anybody. I go back to my cell. A correction officer comes by and we are instructed that our beds must be made every day. I feel my wet under things and roll my eyes. Don't let the CO see that, my cellmate says. I want to remember her name, but I can't, so we're just going to call her Shelly. I wonder if I should tell her to fuck off. In prison movies, a newbie must always assert himself by beating up his cellmate while screaming, I ain't no punk. That sort of behavior commands respect, and the cellmate's blackened eye serves as a warning to all other inmates with thoughts of raping you while you're in line for food tray distribution. Seen too much TV, y'all. But instead of taking a swing at my cellmate, I ask, what are you talking about? She nods towards my wet underwear. You're not supposed to wash your stuff in the sink. What? I am incredulous. Shelly shakes her head. She has used a white ankle sock to secure her long silken hair in a ponytail. It swings back and forth, and I think she can't be that bad if her hair is freshly blown out. That means she hasn't been in here as long as the starving food tray monster with her poorly grown out haircut. I told the CEO I'm not sitting in here with no clean drawers on. There's a lot of stuff I can put up with, but not that, Shelly says. I want to ask her so many questions, like she has a book. Where does she get it from? If I could read, I can escape the painful memories of my ex-boyfriend striking me repeatedly in my face while screaming, I'm not hitting you. Why are you screaming? But I don't want to appear too talkative or pushy with my cellmate, so I say nothing. A small seat protrudes from the cement wall and I sit there uncomfortably, my butt barely fitting, but its load's better than lying on my bunk. When I'm stressed, I sweat pretty badly, and when my cellmate is released for her hour, I quickly wash up in the sink with a pathetic bar of white soap. 10 minutes after I finish, I wonder what the hell, because now it's smelling again, and the soap is obviously fucking useless. I keep trying to listen to the positive voice in my head who keeps telling me to keep in good spirits. I tell God I get it. This is what had to happen. In order for me to get the picture, I can't save him. He won't change. Leave him alone. But my heart is still broken, and I feel like I still love him, and I wonder if he's sorry, and I wonder if he will finally get the help he needs. I start to cry again because he hit me. He hit me even after he swore he would never hit me again after the last time when he did what he did. I sit in my cell, perched uncomfortably on the floating seat, my hands itching to write in order to bleed out the wound around my heart. I still can't believe he put his hands on me again. I stroke the swollen bridge of my nose and hope nothing is dislodged. I go to the mirror over the sink and it looks swollen but not broken. My cheeks are puffy and the whites of my eyes are dark red as though I could cry tears of blood. I flex my face trying to Wiggle my nose and I wince. The ibuprofen is wearing off. Lunchtime comes. We are lit out of our cells and spread out about 6 to a table. There are nearly 30 of us. A red-haired girl is excited about the advent of med time. She asks everyone what they are on, and she runs down a mental list of contraindications and side effects of each pill they expect to line up for. I work in a pharmacy, she says. My autism helps me remember everything. I don't need the med notes in the computer system. People tell her their issues, like I have chronic depression and bipolar disorder. Without missing a beat, she tells them what they need to get on when they leave the jail. She tells them the price of each drug, how often, and when to take it. It's extraordinary. Seriously, she was like a walk-in pharmacy, like for real. Her pharmaceutical advice goes on at one end of the table, while another girl with yet another unkempt hairdo brings up a different subject at the end of the table. I don't even know how my kids are doing, she says sullenly. Where are they? Someone else asks. With their father and his bitch. She's mad because we broken up and I'm still fucking him. She's trying to have my kids taken away from me. Oh no, that's fucked up, someone else says. Yeah, bitch mad because I sent him pictures of my pussy. So what? I don't care. Fuck her. She and my baby's father had temporary custody of our 3 kids, and she told the police where I was hiding out when they was looking for me. She doesn't say police. She says police. Why were the cops looking for you? I had a failure to appear for a drug charge. So what? I meant to go. I just forgot. I just lost my son. He was 2, and I wasn't thinking about no court. Too numb to fully process the death of a small child. I'm trying hard to follow, but I keep staring at her tattoos and her really awful hair. Self-consciously, I touch my own hair. You're judging, Blair. The bitch voice in my head admonishes me. What happened to your son, I ask. I don't want to know, but I want to know. I don't know, she says, and I look in her eyes, and I know that she knows. She's lying. He got sick and he had something wrong with his brain, and you know, they try to say I shook my baby, but I didn't. I think he was born like that because, you know, I was in labor for so long with no C-section, but social services didn't believe me, and when he died, they gave temporary custody of my other children to my child's father, and he lives with this new bitch, and the custody hearing is on Monday, and the bitch told the police where I was, so I would, just so she could say, oh, she's an unfit mother, she's in jail. The girl shook her head. All because of some pussy pictures I sent him. He asked me for them and I sent them. Last week he wanted to see my titties and I sent those too. What the fuck? I'm thinking. The little imp in my head starts to pipe up and scold me again, but I tell it to chill. I'll stop. I won't judge. Bitch don't know when I get out, I'm probably gonna fuck him again, so she better stop fucking with me. If he wants to be with her so bad, why is he still fucking me? I trade a glance with the Hispanic girl who shared a holding cell with me. Her eyes are just as bloodshot as mine. Bruises line her arms and neck. I want to ask her about them, but I already know. When I get out, the girl continues, I'm going to just stack my bread so I could pay the security deposit for the apartments on Florida Street. I think of Florida Street and shiver. The total antithesis of its name, Florida Street, is dark, gloomy, and overrun with crime and drugs. There ain't no sunshine there. Yeah, I'm going to stack my paper and pay that deposit. I just hope I get out in time to pay it by the deadline. I got to go to court for my kids and pay my deposit. Yup. Got to make moves. I'm intrigued but disgusted. Kind of like when you're watching someone squeeze a pimple out of their chin on YouTube. You're like, how did all that white stuff get in there, you know? Yeah, I'm going to stacked my paper. Before the police came and got me, I had all my shit. They went to my grandma's house first because I had been there, and she called and told me that they were coming my way. Put the shit in the curtain rods and in a hole in the backyard. They searched the house, but they couldn't find it. They found my shit the last time when I hid it in the baby's crib, but they ain't get it this time. She chuckled, and I marveled at the blackness of her gums. By shit, I'm guessing she means drugs. I want to ask what kind, but will I be an accessory if I knew and don't report it? So I decide not to ask. Yo, she continues. That reminds me of the time I drove across state lines with some shit. I was going to give it to dude, and he was going to give me some bread for driving it up. I knew someone who got stopped doing the same thing and got caught and was charged with trafficking, so I was shook. And so I put the bags in my pussy and bags in my butt and drove 5 hours with that shit. And I know you can die from that busting. So I had my hands on the steering wheel like this, and I kept saying, please, bag, don't bust. Please, bag, don't bust. I had to use the bathroom, but, you know, I don't make stops on my run, so I just kept driving. She shook her head in disbelief. Something tells me that one day I'll find this story funny, but not today. I'm relieved when we are sent back to our respective cells. I check my underpants that are hand washed in the sink. They're still damp. Why are you here? I asked my cellmate. Shelly says the county was doing a system sweep and she'd failed to pay a citation for being in the park after dark for a birthday party she threw for her brother many, many years ago. She says no one was drinking or being rowdy. They were just trespassing. She says she totally forgot about the ticket. It was so long ago. When she got a notice in the mail, she finally went to court and was ordered to pay the fine and spend 10 days in jail. She was told that she didn't have to do the time consecutively, so she came to jail every weekend from Raleigh, and it was hard because she just had a baby and she hated being apart from him for some shit she forgot to pay all those years ago. I feel so bad for her. And I'm glad she hadn't been caught smuggling shit in her orifices. The voice of the whiny imp in my head speaks up. You mustn't judge, Blair. You don't know the circumstances that led that girl to leave the life she lives. Shut the fuck up, voice. Okay. I can watch television through the window in the door of my cell. I sit on a gray plastic Rubbermaid bin which had been waiting for me upon arrival. It contains a thin washcloth, a sliver of a towel, a roll of toilet paper, a mini toothbrush, and gel toothpaste. And the soap. The same type of soap that I had used to wash up in the sink that day. The soap that I suspect is the reason for my raw and burning underarms. I slip a finger under my shirt to touch my armpit. The skin is inflamed and tender to the touch. We are allowed to make phone calls whenever we are in the common area. I want to make a personal phone call, but I can't remember my mother's home number. Inmates cannot call a cell phone. It must be a landline, and I cannot remember my mother's home number so that I may call her and lie to her and tell her that I am okay. I go a little crazy as I play around with combinations of numbers that do not seem quite right. A Tyler Perry sitcom is on television in the common area. I cannot see the CO at her station, but I can picture her absent-mindedly glancing up at the television as she counts down the hours until her shift is over. Though I cannot hear the dialogue, there is closed captioning on the screen. I try to follow the script, but the words are discombobulated, stalled, and chopped off, and I feel sorry for the deaf people who have to put up with this shit all of the time. My roommate is in her bunk reading. I ask where there are more books. There's a library upstairs, and on weekdays you can check out a book. I leave Monday morning, and this is my last week in here, so you can have my book when I go, Shelly says. I thank her. The whiny little voice in my head is silent. She finally realizes that there will be no miracle. The door to my cell will not buzz open, and I will not be told that this was all a big mistake and that I can go home. I will be released on Monday after the mandatory 48-hour hold for assault stemming from domestic violence. It doesn't matter that I had broken up with my ex for a year. We had dated at one point, so the incident had been labeled domestic in nature. I began to cry again because out of all the times I called the cops on my ex, he had never been arrested. He knew how to hurt so as not to be obvious to people. He is that smart. He is that conniving. I could have taken it a step further and gone to the hospital, had pictures taken, filed a warrant downtown, but because I loved him and felt sorry for him and didn't think he belonged in jail, I never followed up on it. But he didn't hesitate to go upstairs after I maced him and called the police on me. He was angered that I finally hurt him and he was going to make me pay. Ironic how he never wanted me to call the police all the times he'd hurt me, but the first time I adequately was able to defend myself, he didn't hesitate to pick up the phone. My heart aches and my soul is crushed. Have you learned your lesson now? A new, harsher voice has entered my head, and she is old and factual, and she is mad at me for ignoring her for so long. The voice sounds a lot like mine, except that there is a hard edge to it that cuts me deeply. I told you he didn't give a shit about you. Who remains friends with someone who has cheated, lied, and been abusive? Who but an idiot? Yup. That's what you are, Blair. A love beside an idiot who placed this piece of garbage high on a pedestal only so you wouldn't have to stand the smell. Who were you fooling? You protected him all these years. You didn't tell anyone that he was periodically fucking you up and fucking you over. That's not love, that's pride. Because you were too ashamed to say that everyone was right about him, and you didn't want to go crawling back home with your tail between your legs. That's why you're here. You know that, right? This had to happen to you because this was the only way you could see that you couldn't save him. You can't make him change. I try to stop crying, but it is difficult. I am hungry and I'm thirsty, but I don't want to eat the hormone food that will be served later. Maybe if I starve myself while I'm here, I can at least be a few pounds lighter whenever I do get out. How did you get through this every weekend? I asked Shelly. My cellmate just smiles. I barely did. I cried every night the first 2 weekends. Leaving my baby like this kills me, especially over something that happened so long ago. I'm not even the same person I was back then. My life is so different, and I have a son and a fiance, and it's so stupid that I'm here, and I didn't intentionally not pay the ticket. I just forgot about it, but, you know, the state built this new jail, and they gotta fill it, so here I am. When I realize I feel a little sympathy for her, I know that my initial shock is wearing off. Anxiety begins to take up residence in my bones because I know that soon I will feel too much of everything all at once. I ask her about her book. She says it's good and she's almost finished and she will give it to me when she is done. Some of the other girls here, they're kind of scary, I say. Yeah, I know. When I first came in here, I kept my eyes to the floor. I didn't want to attract the attention of some big, beefy girl who would chase me around my cell trying to, have sex with me, like on TV. We laugh because it's paranoid and absurd, but we still believe it could happen. But a lot of the girls are nice, Shelly says. I've been in and out of here for 5 weeks, so I know some of the old faces. Some of the people are waiting for their prison sentence so they can be moved out of the jail and into prison. This is only a holding cell for them. I didn't know that there was a difference between jail and prison. Apparently, one shithole is dug a little bit lower than the other. Some girls are in here for stupid, petty stuff like stealing, fighting, others for more serious things. Like, there is a girl in here, she's so sweet and quiet, and I shared a cell with her one weekend. She's facing a murder charge. She was with some girls who robbed a dude, and the robbery went bad, and he was killed, and she took the rap for everybody else. I think about the faceless, nameless dead man, and I wonder if his family will be happy that someone will pay for what happened to their son. I wonder if my ex feels similar joy. Someone comes and checks our beds to make sure they are neatly made. I do not attempt to hide my still wet underthings. So what if I'm breaking a rule? What's the CEO gonna do? Arrest me? At mealtime, I take a few bites of a bland chicken patty. I cannot remember what else was served. Doesn't matter anyway. The tray monster takes my uneaten food and, disgusted with the bits of food flying from her mouth, I steal glances at a girl who has badly tattooed eyebrows that seem to stretch across her whole forehead. She is cartoonish in appearance, and I wonder if she knows what a bad job someone has done in her face. Why are you here? Someone asked me. I can barely say the words. My ex-boyfriend keeps hitting me, and he got on my car and he wouldn't leave, and I maced him. I'm embarrassed, but no one bats an eyelash. Your voice is so sexy. A girl with a red mohawk says to me. Thanks, I say. I make a mental note to steer clear of her later. You girls be fucking niggas up, says the drug smuggler. This girl fought her husband after he fucked her up. She nods toward the Hispanic girl who was in my holding cell that first night. The girl shakes her head. He was fucking me up, and I was covered with bruises all over, and he has one tiny scratch, and they arrested me. He said that I beat him up, and I got these bruises from him trying to restrain me. I think of how fucked up the world is, and I fight back tears. I don't want these strangers to see me cry. Orientation for the newbies immediately follows dinner. We are told what we can do, which is shower, eat, and have access to meds at bedtime, and told what not to do. No sex, no fighting, no cursing, no speaking loudly, no sex, no throwing things, no hoarding food, no gang or violence-infused dialogue, no sex, and no destruction of property. I'm not sure if we're allowed to have sex, but I don't want to ask for clarification. We are told that we can make phone calls and that we would have our first appearance before the judge come Monday morning. Then our release times will be determined. It is now Saturday afternoon, and Monday seems so far away. We are told that we can meet with our lawyers at any time, and I wonder if my mom has been able to reach anyone to help me. What if the judge orders me to stay in jail longer than the 48 hours? Oh, my stomach lurches, and I go back to my cell to cry some more. As I perch on my bed, I keep stealing glances at my cellmate, willing her to finish that damn book. The title is simple, Anna. I wonder if it's a romance and think it can't be. The county jail wouldn't want to stir up feelings of desire and lust in its inmates. No, Anna must be G-rated. A coming-of-age story about a girl named Anna, maybe? There is an illustration of a smiling blonde woman wearing an A-line skirt and a sweater carrying a suitcase in her hand. A bus depot looms in the background. I briefly wonder if she's smuggling drugs across state lines. No, that would be silly. She wouldn't need a suitcase for that. The idea for a poem begins to dance around my brain, and I wish for a pen and paper. I wish for a way to release the pain in my heart, and the only way I know how to do this is to write. I can't write, so I commit the poem to memory, and I tell myself to write it down the minute I get home. Home meant a hot shower with real shower gel and conditioner for my scalp, which is starting to itch. Home meant I can talk to my mother again after my initial hysterical call home telling her that the cops were going to arrest me. Home meant I didn't have to wonder if my puppy was okay. The officers promised me they would take him to my mother's house instead of the shelter. I wonder if he needed to go to the emergency vet clinic. Remembering him limping around the parking lot hurt and scared just tore up my heart. I imagine how happy he will be to see me upon my release. I will bury my nose in his fur and tell him how much I love him. Home meant I could hug my mother and kiss her and feel safe knowing that she was just a room away, sleeping with the television on, the reassuring shuffle of her feet as she made her way to the bathroom for her late night pee. I smile as I think of her nightly routine, and then I wince when I realize how much grief I am causing her. Home means I will be reunited with my phone so I can talk to my best friend who I know is worried sick about me and angry and crazy, and all of the things that make her perfect. I know that for her sake, I will pretend I am okay, but she will see through my bullshit and take care of me anyway. I wonder about work. I wonder if I will get out of jail in time to go to work late on Monday and pretend as though nothing happened. I am ashamed and afraid of losing my job. Do mugshots end up on the internet? I smell really badly at this point, and I regret not showering when I had the opportunity. Though the cell isn't warm, I'm sweating profusely. I'm grateful that I'm not on my period. I climb up to my bunk and cry some more and talk to God about how I'm feeling, and I ask him to just take away the pain, and I wonder how this all fits into his master plan for my life. I prayed for you to make me strong, God. Is this really how you're gonna do it? I think of a nurse I'd met a few years back when I received a scary and awful medical diagnosis. My ex cried as he sat at my bedside while the nurse smiled at me and told me that I couldn't sink into despair. She said, "Sometimes things are placed in your past so that God can test your mettle." Her name was Nancy, and I've probably long since been erased from her memory, but I will always remember her. When dinner time comes, I am not hungry, but I am incredibly thirsty, and I'm grateful for the food tray in my hands. Before my butt can make contact with the metal bench, the food tray monster slides in next to me. "You want your bread? If you don't want your tray, give it to me," she asks. She asks this of everyone around her, and food trades begin. Keeping true to her word, the Hispanic girl doesn't give her tray a sideways glance. I, on the other hand, hope that my hormone vegetables will make me so sleepy that Monday comes faster and I shovel the food in my mouth. A very thin girl with gaunt, soulless eyes approaches the CEO with her tray. Her scrubs hang from her frail body and her shoulders are hunched. She is crying, and I try to appear as though I'm not paying attention, but I want to know if she is staging a protest against the hormone-laden food. The CEO keeps shaking her head, her Shirley Temple curls crisp with hairspray. What is it about grown women wanting to have Shirley Temple curls? Only Shirley Temple actually look good in them, but, I digress. That is the food that was given to you. You have to eat it, the CEO says. But I can't. Look at this. There's no possible way I can eat this. I get a good look at the girl's tray. She has about half a dozen styrofoam cups, and I wonder if she has a bad tooth like the girl with the swollen jaw who says her rotten molar has kept her up all 15 nights she's been here. "What's wrong with her?" one of the other newbies asks. "Why won't they give her regular food?" "The vaginal drug smuggler?" She rolls her eyes. "Please, she's an addict. She's detoxing and complained she couldn't keep her food down. She complained that solid food made her so nauseous, so the nurse made a liquid diet for her, and now this bitch is still complaining." A liquid diet. The girl goes back to her seat, sobs racking her tiny body. As she shuffles past me, I notice the track marks striping her bony arms. I mentally name her Heroin Helen. She sits down and a few girls at her table hover around her. I wonder if these buzzards are also food tray monsters, but they are surprisingly tender. And I have to remind myself that some of these girls are normal people who have simply made poor life choices. Same as me. It's not so bad, one of the not buzzards say. Look, it's the same food we got. Liquid turkey, pureed peas. You haven't eaten in days. Just try some of it. I can't, the girl wails. At least have the applesauce. One of the girls coaxes the styrofoam cup up to Heroin Helen's lips. With a trembling hand, Heroin Helen takes the cup and drinks the applesauce. And have this milk. Milk will make you feel full, another not buzzard says. I picture a hormone cow with 4 huge breasts instead of udders, churning out milk for America's inmate population. I'm gonna go see what she don't want. The food tray monster made sure the CEO wasn't looking and switched his tables. I find out from another conversation that this CEO is the nice CEO because she lets us linger outside of our cells after dinner time. I try to keep my racing thoughts from going back to last night, but I'm not very successful. My face still hurts, though not as much. I sit still so as not to let the odor waft from my body. I don't want to be known as the stinky girl. Some girls start braiding each other's hair. I look around at the camaraderie and think that television promotes an unrealistic view of what goes on inside of a jail. I expected to see little baggies of cocaine, changing hands, girls performing sexual favors in exchange for tampons. Yes, everyone looks rough, but I'd only been there a day already, and not one person had been knifed on their way to make a phone call. I try to call home, but I've gotten the number wrong. I'm sad and lonely and smelly, and all I want is to curl up next to my mom on her couch. I look down at my toes and they bother me because I had been planning to do them this weekend, but I hadn't gotten around to it, and the polish is chipped and my skin ashen. I tell myself that I will do my nails first thing Monday morning when I am released. I start to create a mental list of things to do once I am free. When we are ordered back to our cells, I wonder about my car. Is it still in the lot of my ex's apartment complex? I hope that my mother has gotten in contact with someone who could drive the car to my house, because I know it is not beneath my ex to slash my tires. I think about my dog with his soulful green eyes, and I think of his hurt paw, and I just cry myself to sleep again. The next morning, we are awakened and instructed that we will be called for our turn in the shower. Perhaps the most unnerving thing about being in jail is that except for the clock hanging in the common area, there are no indicators of the passing of time. There is an outside window, but it is far away from my cell, and I cannot tell if it's nighttime or daytime, or if the sky has opened up and let loose all of the plagues of the Old Testament. I consider etching tally marks into the wall in order to start my own daily calendar, but I feel as though this is a bit too dramatic. I jump from my bunk and hurriedly make my bed. There is a thin blue pad for a mattress, a sheet, and an itchy woolen blanket. I am reminded of the homeless woman in New York near what is now the Bloomberg building on Lexington Avenue. She was always naked, or her bare shoulders made you presume she was naked, under the gigantic black contractor's bag draped over her body, holes cut out for her arms and head. She was a small thing, her skin brown and smooth like milk chocolate, her eyes wide and probing. I will walk by her in my Catholic school uniform, feeling so embarrassed and entitled, despite the fact that I was on my way to a housing project in the South Bronx. I would give this woman the little bit of money I had on me, and if I stopped off inside of the Wendy's to get a snack for myself, I always made sure to buy her a burger or some fries. I worried how she would fare in the cold, and I wondered if she would find a warm subway grate to huddle over at night. Because I'm always naming people, I christened her Trash Bag Trudy. She always had a worn woolen blanket similar to the ones that the jail had issued to us inmates. I'd seen Trash Bag Trudy all throughout my high school years, and always through her warm gaze, spare change, a value meal, whatever I could provide that would make her feel as though at least one person in the world gave a fuck about her. I'll never forget one day when I was watching a special report on the news when a camera crew scrambled up the stairs of a posh brownstone in Brooklyn and tapped furiously on the door. Guess who was on the other side of the door when it finally opened up? Yep. Trash Bag Trudy, who had been the object of my concern and prayers for so many years, lived in a multi-million-dollar home in one of the most affluent parts of Brooklyn. One day, a couple of concerned citizens followed the faux homeless woman on the train, curious as to where she disappeared to each night. Thinking that they could dive in and save her from spending the night in a squalor at a piss-filled, rundown old crack house, imagine their surprise when Trash Bag Trudy climbed down the stairs of the brownstone, reached under her makeshift poncho, and unearthed a set of house keys. She fumbled with the locks for a brief second before entering, leaving her woolen blanket on the stoop. In their ire, the Good Samaritans contacted the local news station. What the fuck? I was beyond mad, and back then, perhaps I should have learned that people aren't necessarily indicative of the image they project. But here I was in jail because the lesson I should have learned all those years ago hadn't quite stuck. Now, I was here in my own woolen blanket, my poncho of shame, almost as tangible as the one worn by Trash Bag Trudy. My cellmate finally finishes her book. Greedily, I snatch it from her hands, grateful to have a distraction from the thoughts cartwheeling in my head. Eager to dive into a world unfamiliar to the one I am currently struggling to survive in, I cracked the spine of the paperback, not even bothering to read the summary on the back cover. A few pages into the book, I turn to the front and find the year of publication. 1974? No wonder. The slang is outdated, and Anna, the main character, seems stuffy and prudish. As I read about Anna's move to a small town deep in the heart of a post-segregated South, I tell myself to invest fully in seeing the story through to the end. Maybe she'll evolve into someone fun like Snooki. Convinced Anna will loosen up and stop trying to save the wayward students at the high school where she teaches, I dutifully read each page, bored out of my mind, but what is the alternative? A few chapters in, I suspect that Anna is crap. Was this book any good? I asked my cellmate. I liked it, she replies. She stretches and rolls her neck. Just one more day, she says, triumphant. I get to go home tomorrow, and I am never coming back. I am happy she will reunite with her son, but I am also envious. What if my ex decides to press charges against me out of retaliation, and I am forced to stay here indefinitely? What will happen to my thirsty strands of hair if they have to go months without deep conditioning? An image of the matted hair of my fellow inmates flashes in my mind. I look down at my feet. The chip polish on my toes taunts me. My skin is dry, and I feel as dirty as I smell. Somewhere in the world, the hands of a clock slowly make their way around the numbers, signaling the passing of time. This knowledge gives me no comfort. I feel lonely and isolated, and I think I will be sad when the girl who I call Shelly gets to leave this place tomorrow. But I am also slightly relieved because then and only then can I cry freely and not have to sit as still as a statue so as not to make the evidence of my horrific body odor more clear. And also, I can poop. This bitch Anna, though, this book, oh, it's getting on my nerves. She is such a good girl, so much so that I give into temptation and read the back cover of the book. Though it says absolutely nothing about the point of the story, I do catch the words Christian fiction, and I groan inwardly, and now I know that there will be no getting to the good part with this one. Anna keeps trying to save the world one student at a time, and it's getting old. The only major conflict is that her dumbass entitled students keep running into, cliche problems that have been plaguing us since the beginning of the time, like American racism and, of course, elitism. I'm trying hard to relate, but all I can think of is how, once again, the supposed love of my life got away with physically and emotionally hurting me, and I am broken. Eventually, I set my book aside and succumb to sleep. Sunday morning, or I assume it's morning when the bright overhead lights come on, I get out of bed and pee in the bowl. I try to avoid my reflection in the mirror, but I cannot help but look up as I wash my hands. The swelling along the bridge of my nose has gone down, but my eyelids are puffy and red-rimmed from waking up and having a knockdown, drag-out tear fest when I awoke in the middle of the night. My roommate is still buried under her covers, but she jumps up when the CO announces that she will open each cell door when it's time for showers. I am excited. I check my underthings. They are still wet, but I don't care. I can wear my scrubs without underwear, but I can't go another day without bathing. Some of my twists are sticking straight up, and it drives me crazy, which is silly because I'm in jail and who cares about looks? But I care about preserving my dignity, and I feel as though I have been stripped of it. I cannot believe that my Rubbermaid bin does not contain deodorant or decent flavored toothpaste. Small things in the grand scheme of things, but those things and our desire for them separates us from animals, and I have come to realize that in this place, we are seen as less than that. When the cell doors open sometime later, we are told that it is breakfast time. After eating yet another awful meal, we are told to return to our cells. This makes me go a little crazy as I am tired of stewing in my own odor. I want to start a riot so I can break out while the guards are distracted with stopping the girls from killing one another. I know I will eventually get caught because every escaped prisoner gets caught, but at least I can hug my mother and check on my dog's balls for the brief time I am on the run. No one has called us to take a shower, my cellmate says. The CO has a bored expression on her face. You missed your chance. You can only shower between the hours of 8 and 9. I'm smelly and I'm mad and my face hurts, and I'll have another charge against me if this woman doesn't let me shower today. How are we supposed to know we can shower between 8 and 9 when we have no concept of time in here? You were supposed to page us over the intercom and unlock our cells, I say. Maybe the CO feels sorry for me, or maybe the crazed look in my eyes tell her she better fucking let me shower. She looks away and says curtly, you each have 15 minutes. I hurry to the cell, grab a towel, the bar of soap, and run into the shower. I scrub vigorously, desperate to work up a good lather, but only a few sorry suds linger on my body. I let the lukewarm water run over my hair and skin, and I stay in as long as I can until the water runs cold and I am freezing. You cannot walk to your cell wrapped in your towel, and you wouldn't want to. Besides, the towel is way too small. So I put on my scrubs and walk towards my cell, but the girls are hanging out on the benches in the common area, and the CO is on the phone and doesn't seem to notice that we haven't been locked up. I think, should I go to my cell so I won't get in trouble with everyone else? And I debate doing the right thing for a brief second, but soon I say fuck it and slide in next to a girl, but not the one who says my voice is sexy, another one. Hey, she says. Hi. When do you get out of here? Tomorrow, I hope. I try not to think about the events that have brought me here because every time I do, I begin to cry. I focus instead on the conversations that take place around me and listen for stories that sound similar to mine. I try to figure out which of the 20 or so girls in here is on a murder charge, but as disheveled and haggard as some of us looks, no one has the look of a murderer. Hope my dog is okay. Heroin Helen is rocking back and forth and she looks like complete shit, but I think that she must have been pretty once. She is young, younger than me, I think. I wonder what makes someone think, oh yeah, I'll try that, when they decide to experiment with heroin. I wonder if she knows she will die from this drug because odds are slim that you won't overdose on heroin before you are able to kick the habit. I want to tell her that despite the track marks on her arms and how awful she looks, she's still attractive, but that her haunted beauty will not always last because it can't last. Not when her body is decaying from the inside out. I want to tell her that it seems cool now, but it's only because she's so young and still has her teeth. She doesn't have huge craters and pockmarks on her skin. Yet. I want to tell her that heroin chic is a half-life, the same way as guys with cornrows in their hair never looks good after the age of 40. But I do not tell her this because, I mind my business and she is sad and crying and a nervous wreck. I know she didn't drink her liquid diet at breakfast this morning and she must be starving. I don't know what's going to happen to my dog, she keeps saying. What dog? The former pharmacist with autism asked. The cops came and raided my house and took my dog to the shelter, and I was told that if I didn't get my dog out in 3 days, they were going to put her down because she isn't socialized, and I love my dog. I think of my own green-eyed baby, and I immediately feel bad for Heroin Helen. I am mad at myself for being concerned for this stranger because my heart should be hardened after what has happened to me. I haven't learned my lesson about feeling sorry for people. I listen. They won't put your dog down, I say. Yes, they will, because this happened before and I got out just in time before she was scheduled to be put down. The story doesn't make sense, but she is so upset that some of it must be true, but a girl next to me isn't buying it. What were you picked up for? She asked, wrinkling her nose. Shoplifting, but it wasn't me. It was my boyfriend and my friend, and I told the police that I didn't know they stole, but I'm being charged as an accomplice because, they saw this. She gestures to the track marks on her skinny arms. They said I was hooked on drugs and I must be lying. I swore I wasn't lying, but they said I needed to go to jail because maybe that was the only way I could detox. I only half believe her, but I am glad the officers who arrested me were kind enough to take my puppy home. Or at least they said they would. I worry the cops only told me this because I was hysterical and crying and they just wanted me to shut the fuck up so they could end their shifts and go home. I think of my puppy's balls and I am fearful because the animal shelter hates dogs with balls and will surely rip them off if he goes in there with them dangling and swinging as they do. They're going to cut my dog's balls off. And they're going to do it first thing because his balls are going to taunt them without mercy. And they're going to be like, neuter and spay, neuter and spay. I can already see myself being reunited with my poor ballless dog, the void where his private parts once hung, bandaged with thick white gauze, blood soaking through. I picture the worst. My eyes tear up and I know I'm crazy and I think I have cabin fever. I want to start a riot so I can break out while the guards are distracted with stopping the girls from killing one another. I know I will eventually get caught because every escaped prisoner gets caught. But at least I can hug my mother and check on my dog's balls for the brief time I am on the run. Heroin Helen is sniveling and carrying on, and the drug smuggler is rolling her eyes and sucking her teeth because she wants everyone to know she has had it up to here with Heroin Helen. The CEO comes over and tells me I have a visitor, and she takes me upstairs, and I think it must be a lawyer because the other girls have gone upstairs to speak with their lawyers. But my mom is on the screen. She is in another part of the jail, seated in front of a monitor, phone receiver in hand. I pick up a phone identical to hers, and I think she is even better than a lawyer. I want to cry, but I must be brave because I suspect my mother has been very upset by this, and I have to pretend that everything is okay for her sake. The last time I spoke to her was the night I was arrested, a tearful phone call just before I was cuffed and placed into the back of the police car. Seeing her on the screen, I am filled with immeasurable relief. So I tell her I'm fine, and I tell her that there are books, and she is relieved because she has always taught me that books are my friends, and she is glad I have access to my friends. I tell her my cellmate is nice, and I tell her it's not so bad. I said, Mommy, see my hair? I twisted it because I'm stupid and doing my hair is important to me. She tells me that my dog is fine. He is searching for me, but he walks without any trace of a limp. She says that she had my car towed to her house, and I am relieved that my ex hasn't set it on fire or slashed the tires. As his previous behavior has proven, he is not above vandalizing property. Mom tells me that she brought me clothes, but they won't let her give them to me, and I want to laugh, but instead I very nicely explain that we are issued clothing and we must wear them because we are in jail, not summer camp. She tells me that my best friend is terribly worried about me and I must call her first thing, and I think my best friend must be worried sick, and I feel guilty because I have caused so much grief. Mommy tells me that she has gotten me a good lawyer, and I trust her because under pressure, my mom can move mountains. I just wish she could figure out the public transportation in town or learn how to use a computer. I want to hug her and tell her she means so much to me, but I can't have her be sad in front of me right now because I need to know that she has the strength to pretend she is strong. Before we part, I make her tell me her phone number, and I scratch it into the ashy skin on my arm. After our 2 brief visit is over, I run downstairs and beg the CEO to write the number on a piece of paper so that I might call my mother later. Begrudgingly, the CEO does this one small favor, but it proves unnecessary because my mother's phone number does not collect calls. I spent a long, quiet afternoon in my cell with Anna. Some girls are singing and their voices are beautiful, beautiful parakeets in steel door cages, chirping despite the hopelessness of their situation. I decide that I want to sing too, and I do. I sing I Dreamed a Dream from Les Miserables because I am miserable, and I have just seen the movie and it feels so fresh in my mind. I am heartbroken, thirsty, upset, and in shock over what has happened to me. I am also alone because my cellmate has gone home, so I'm not ashamed to belt out the wrong words to the song that feels right in my heart. I think of Fantine and how hopeless her situation was, and I feel despair, but the bright spot is that I'm not a prostitute slowly dying for something that could be tuberculosis or syphilis, whatever she had. And then I think of the woman in jail with the badly tattooed eyebrows, and my gut feeling is that she is a prostitute. And I laugh because my old cellmate had told me that someone asked this woman where she got her eyebrows done so they would know not to go. The sound of my own laughter is hoarse and foreign. I do not know the girl who is pacing her cell back and forth singing to herself. I feel as though the girl I thought I knew died when her ex-boyfriend, whom she loved so much, struck her in the face. I I retwist unraveled strands of my hair and I go back to Anna. I hate Anna and her middle class problems, but there's nothing to do but read, so I do. Anna is reunited with a man whom she'd loved in her past but has married someone else, and he asks for another chance and she refuses him, which makes no sense to me because all Anna has done throughout the story is reminisce about what could have been and should have been with this man. Anna witnesses turning points in our nation's history like Vietnam, the Cold War, and the Civil Rights era. She seems to stand for a lot, yet has no real opinion on anything, and I feel as though the book is non-committal and trite and awful, and I think this is a poor attempt to recruit new Christians. And then suddenly I am at the end of the book, and Anna's head is bashed in with a metal pipe in a cemetery by one of her troubled students, and it makes no sense, and surely I must have missed something. So I start reading backwards and trying to figure out how this book suddenly became so dark and in the second to last chapter. If I wasn't so pissed off, I would have laughed, but I am confused because Anna is now a vegetable living with brain damage so severe, one of her former students, who is now a medical doctor, kills her to put her out of her misery. The book is over and I want to throw it at the wall, but my cell is so small and a book laying on the floor will bother me and I will eventually have to pick it up. So I just shove it into the Rubbermaid bin. I am beside myself with worry that I won't be released tomorrow, even though I have asked the CEO half a dozen times, when can I go home? At dinner time, a new set of girls arrive and one heavy-set girl waddles in, her scrubs too tight, exposing a big, fat ass. The CEO asks her to pull her shirt down. I can't remember her name, so I'll call her Monique, and her hair is fabulous and the other inmates ooh and ah over it, and she reveals that it is a wig, and one of the girls with unbelievably fucked up hair is mad because they confiscated her wig during processing. I want to laugh, but I bite my inner cheek to regain my composure. I almost lose it again when another similarly haggard looking girl says her wig was taken too. I knew I was turning myself in today, so I sewed my wig on. See? Monique tugs on her tresses and wiggles it around. It won't come off. The other girls nod and make sounds of understanding, and I know they are making mental notes to be one step ahead of the hair game the next time they land in jail. Monique says her children's father is a deadbeat asshole, and he went to jail for 7 years for raping her and beating her up before. She says she has had multiple restraining orders against him, and when she turned herself in today, the clerk at the front desk knew her by name. That's how often she'd come in to file a report on her ex. She says that she is still messing around with her children's father, and his new girlfriend has a problem with her and threatened to have Monique jumped. I'm horrified that she will return to this monster, and I think that something must be wrong with her brain. Then I realize I am a huge freaking hypocrite, because as many times as my ex revealed his true self to me, I chose instead to see him for whom he had the potential to be. I am humbled and ashamed for judging this girl, and I am deeply sorry. Monique says the new girlfriend was threatening her via text messages, and Monique was like, oh no she didn't, and sent the girlfriends pictures of the dude performing a sex act on her just last week. That sent the new girlfriend over the edge, and she texted, when I get off of work, Monique, I'm coming for you. To which Monique replied, oh wait, I'll come to you. And Monique said she got in her car and drove to Wendy's. I'm confused, and I asked her why such a threat made her want a hamburger, and she laughs the laugh of a crazy person and says, nah, bitch works at Wendy's, and I think this story can't get any worse. Monique says she goes through the drive-thru and orders a large drink, and when she receives it, she asks for the new girlfriend by name. When the new girlfriend comes to the drive-thru window, she throws the drink at her, and the new girlfriend is drenched. Monique tries to grab her and pull her into the car so she can fuck her up, but the girl is struggling. So Monique parks her car and goes inside of Wendy's to finish the job. She says her children's father tried to stop the fight, and I interrupt and say, "Hey, how did he get there that fast?" And she says, "He works there too, girl." And I laugh and laugh and laugh. And my laughter is contagious because everyone else starts to laugh, even though people who can't hear this god awful story. Monique proceeds to describe how she systematically and deliberately fucks up the new girlfriend and her children's father, and then runs out the door, hops into her vehicle, and drives the fuck off from Wendy's. Later, she learns that there is a warrant for her arrest because the cops come looking for her, but the cops are friendly because she has called them more than a few times and she knows them by name. She explains she can't go to jail until she can get someone to watch her kids. The cops tell her to come in when she's ready, and she was ready today because here she is telling me this story that would win Maury Povich a daytime Emmy if she were to be a featured guest on his show. We finish our dinner and the nice CEO turns on the television, and things aren't so bad because I could be released soon, or at least I hope so. There are so many women in here for domestic violence, but we all say we are innocent and that it was self-defense. And I wonder if the officers must fill a quota for each month because we are all in here anyway. Or maybe one of us is lying, but I know it's not me because my face is still sore and my brain keeps taking me back to the times when my ex put his hands on me. I flinch as though he is hitting me again, and I tell myself to get my shit together and not start having these nervous tics whenever the memories resurface. Heroin Helen is crying again, and the drug smuggler is at her limit. I wish she would stop talking about that fucking dog, the drug smuggler keeps saying. The girls who are trying to console Heroin Helen look as though they want to shoot the drug smuggler a dirty look, but they know better, so they don't. After hearing 15 minutes of Helen crying about her dog, the drug smuggler finally snaps and says, "I don't know where the fuck my kids are. No one gives a fuck about your stupid dog." Everyone is silent and the general amenability vanishes. Her outburst scares me with its intensity, and I am reminded of the batshit craziness I saw in my ex-boyfriend's eyes. I am glad when we are sent back to ourselves for the night. I feel safer in here than I do out there. When Monday morning comes, I am nervous and scared to believe that I can possibly get out of here. The CEO tells us that we must wait our turn for our first court appearance before the judge. I wonder if my mother will be in the courtroom, and I wonder if my ex will have the nerve to show his face. I have only been in jail for about 48 hours, but I feel different, and I know that this incident will have a profound impact on the rest of my life. Whether it's for better or worse, I do not know, but I do know that I can no longer continue to make the poor choices that I have made, to allow parasites in my life to suck and use until I am as dry as bone, scarred, and indubitably changed because of their presence in my life, and not in a good way. I know for sure that there will be no third or fourth chances for him with me, no attempts to forgive and forget. There will be no friendship in due time, and there will be no opportunities to make it up to me. Not only is he dead in my eyes, he has died twice, and he is nothing more than stinking, rotting flesh, moist with decay, and so foul-smelling that not even flies will keep him company. The newbies wait for their first appearance before the judge. I am surprised when I find out we will not be transported to a courtroom. Sentencing criminals has been streamlined by technology, so all we have to do is go into a room, sit in front of a television screen, and communicate with the judge via live feed. I am nervous. What if the court deems I am a hazard to public safety and keeps me behind bars until my court date? I tell myself that possibility is only reserved for repeat offenders who fail to appear for their court dates, but I am still worried. When my turn comes, I see the lawyer for the first time. Some words are exchanged, but they fade into the background as I scan the courtroom for my mom. I do not see her. The camera angles are all bad. However, my ears tune back into the conversation when the judge says that the victim has gotten in contact with the court and was adamant that I pose no threat to him or anyone for that matter. How kind of him. A court date just a month away is set for me, and the CEO who stands guard and watches over us in this small, airless room writes this date on a piece of paper for me. She tells those of us who are able to leave the jail today that we may leave at 10 a.m. and that we must go through an exit process where we are checked out of the jail and reunited with our personal belongings. I am elated, but some of the other girls cannot share in the joy because they are ordered to stay in jail until their court date. The drug smuggler and heroin Helen are some of those girls, and Helen starts wailing, my dog, and I move away because the drug smuggler looks ready to pounce on her. We are allowed to sit in the common area, and I'm going home, so I feel comfortable enough to say that I smell, and 4 other girls chime in that they smell too. I give a speech about how degrading and demoralizing it is to have to go without deodorant and lotion and argan oil for my scalp. Some of the other newbies nod their head in agreement. Having their support is nice, but I don't care. This is about me. Despite another shower, I am sweaty and smelly, and the skin on my nipples is dry and flaking and burns each time the fabric of my shirt grazes them the wrong way. My underarms are on fire and are red and swollen, and I am angry that we were given soap that you wouldn't use on the dirtiest, most mangiest dog. I like the soap, one inmate says. She looks as though she is someone's grandmother who knows how to cook some mean fried chicken and collard greens with cornbread. But instead of baking cookies, she is in here smacking her toothless gums, and she rubs her arms to drum up some heat from the cold. That is some good lye soap right there. My mama used that on us growing up. It's real good for your skin. My disbelief is clear. Lye soap? Who uses lye soap anymore? I know I'm being bitchy, and I know I'm acting like an uber snob, but does no one else crave the smooth, pleasantly scented lather from Oil of Olay body wash? Is no one else outraged that we are all unkempt and ashy looking? Except for Monique, of course. She still looks fabulous. When I am banished to my cell again, I'm okay with it. I am to be released today. I am only waiting for the processor to call upstairs to let the CEO know when they are ready for me. I clear the linens from my bed. Ducking away from the square window on the cell door, I slip on my still wet underthings, wincing when my sports bra rubs against the paper-dry skin outlining my areola. I think of him, and my heart hurts, and I don't remember ever having experienced this sharp stabbing pain. My head hurts because for years I'd laid out my flaws for him to either accept or leave on the ground, judged and frowned upon. When he finally decided to, commit to a relationship, he promised to finally do right by me. I didn't ask for much, only for him to be honest and loyal, and he'd failed miserably. And when he had the opportunity to do what I taught him and drilled into his head for the long time I'd known him, he'd fallen short, flunked the tests, crashed and burned, scored so poor he will never be given the 5th chance he probably thinks he deserves. During all the years I'd known him, I'd asked for him to be honest, to stop lying to save his own ass, and for once to think about the people who believed in him more than he believed in himself. But when he lied to the police and told them that he didn't lay a finger on me that night, despite all the other times he physically hurt me so badly that the mental scars still haunted me to this very day, he killed the hopeful voice inside of me that told me that everyone was capable of change. Now, I feel most people are capable of change, but some are of the devil, uncaring who they hurt, so long as they protect themselves in the process. I should have known better. I should have known better than to trust someone who sleeps with his eyes open. Hours pass. The CEO stops responding to my pages, inquiring as to the time they will release me from this dungeon. I think of doing sit-ups because when people in television want to kill time in jail, they work out and get tattoos, but I'm too lazy and too smelly to overexert myself. So I sit on my Rubbermaid bin and think about taking my first post-jail hot shower. It is hours and hours before I'm released. It just so happens that I am escorted out of my cell through the common area and out of the unit down to processing. The bruise-covered Hispanic girl from the first night, the girl who'd gotten into a scuffle with her husband, and Monique are my companions. We are told by the processor that there was a riot in the men's holding unit, which resulted in our delayed release. We sit and wait in processing and then sit and wait some more. We are told that a senior person must come down and oversee our dismissal, but he too is late because of the riot. The processor tells us that the senior person is extra late because an inmate has thrown himself off of a table and hit his head. And I wonder, why didn't I think of that? The weekend would have not seemed so long if I'd had a concussion and was oblivious to the slow passage of time. We sit and talk about what we do once we are free. Bruised Hispanic girl says she will hug her children who were screaming and frightened when their mommy was taken away by the police. She swears this is the last straw and that she will leave her husband and board a Greyhound bus with the kids and head to her parents' house in Florida. Well, she will file for divorce and cut all ties with her no good, lousy ass man. I nod my head in support, but I know that statistics show that this scenario might never happen. He will cry and beg for sympathy, and she will fall for it because that is what I did, and I consider myself to be a smart person. The other girl says that her arrest was all a big misunderstanding. She says that she and her husband got into a heated argument, and she threw a printer at him, and her neighbors called the police. She says her husband tried to explain that to the arresting officers, but they weren't trying to hear it. Days later, my attorney will tell me that the new domestic violence laws in our county ensure that if cops respond to a report of domestic assault, someone automatically goes to jail no matter how absurd the circumstances. Monique has not broken a sweat, a remarkable feat, as she clearly has over 200 pounds on the rest of us, and we smell like refuse. Her colorful acrylic nails make clicking noises as she runs a hand over her wig, adjusts her glasses, picks a piece of lint from her pants. She is unfazed by all of this, a girl who has seen too much in too little time. She is younger than the rest of us, but carries herself with a self-assuredness and a calmness I wish I could absorb. Because inside, I am a crazed mess, unsure as to what new nightmare awaits me when I am back in the world. Being so close to freedom and not being able to touch it is maddening. Every time an officer approaches us, we are hopeful for the brief second between first spotting him and then realizing he is on his way to do something more important than dealing with us. Finally, we are told we are ready to go through the final round of our exit process. We are given plastic garbage bags with our clothing. Individually, we are taken to a dimly lit, windowless room to change. I am grateful to be reunited with my clothing, and I slip them on over my soft skin. We must sit and wait again for someone else to escort us to the exit. A woman comes and tells the bruised Hispanic girl that a representative from Children's Protective Services must speak with her before she is released. The Hispanic girl bursts into tears, and we try to console her. He told them that I was crazy and that I hurt myself, she says. I look at the bruises along her arms, neck, and face. They are dark and purple, and I cannot understand why an officer would think she did this to herself. He is going to try and take my kids away from me. She continues through hiccuping sobs that rack her body. She'd had her hair styled into 2 Dutch braids when we were in the common area, and I think she looks like a little girl too young to deal with this new horror. He told me when I tried to leave the last time that he would kill me before I took the kids from him. We offer words of encouragement, but they fall flat. Tell them he has said all of this, I say, but the words sound empty even before they leave my lips. I know that sometimes telling the truth will get you nowhere, and I feel so sorry for her and her kids. I am reminded again about how much worse my own situation can be. It is bad, yes, but I am not at the risk of losing my kids. I don't have any. I can't help but think back to the time when things were rosy between my ex and I. My heart experienced the stabbing pain again. My heart experienced that stabbing pain again, and that bitchy, patronizing voice in my head spoke up. And that wasn't enough to send you running? You deserve for this to have happened to you. You are an idiot. The girl who threw the printer shows us a note heroine Helen has slipped her. Nosy, the rest of us read the childlike scrawl dancing along the scrap of paper. Call my mother, it says. Tell her I promised to go to rehab this time. A number and a name follows. The girl who threw the printer palms the note. I'm wondering if I should call or if it's better to just let her stay in here. Maybe she can finally get clean now. Monique shakes her head, beautiful hair swinging. Some of these girls need to stay in here. I do feel bad for that girl who is up on the murder charge, says the bruised Hispanic girl. Which one was she, I ask. The one who braided my hair? I feel so bad for her. Monique grunts. The Hispanic girl shoots her a side eye before continuing. I feel bad because she's taking the blame for her friends. Monique rolls her eyes and sucks her teeth. She did it. What, we all say? Somebody told me that the girl confessed to her cellmate. She admitted it to her cellmate because they were all lovey-dovey up in there. We are silent as we digest this disturbing information. The Hispanic girl's hair no longer looks so nice because the same fingers that braided the strands pulled the trigger of a gun on a man who is now dead. I feel tears well up in my eyes again as I am escorted out of the county jail. I tell myself never again. I have finally learned the hard, painful lesson that years of experience hadn't taught. It had taken an open-handed hit to my face to open my eyes to the harsh reality that I had refused to see. I dreamed a dream when times gone by, when hope was high and life worth living. I dreamed that love would never die. I dreamed that God would be forgiving. Then I was young and unafraid, and dreams were made and used and wasted. There was no ransom to be paid, no song unsung, no wine untasted. But the tigers come at night, with their voices soft as thunder, and as they tear your hope apart, as they turn your dream to shame. He slept a summer by my side. He filled my days with endless wonder. He took my childhood in his strides, but he was gone when autumn came. And still I dream he'll come to me. Then we will love the years together. But there are dreams there cannot be, and there are storms we cannot weather. different now from what it seemed. Now life has killed the dream I dreamed. Psych. I bounced back. Love you guys so much. I hope you enjoyed this episode. It was rather long. I'm going to take a break for a couple of days, but the next episode is going to be popping. Don't forget to hit like, comment, subscribe, share, and hit me up on IG. Thanks, guys. Press on towards the goal.